Hello and welcome back to Jackknives Reviews. I'm of course your host, Jackknife. Today we'll be looking at a newer horror film that takes the perspective of horror from the point of view of man's best friend. This is Good Boy. Todd, a young man suffering from a lung disease, moves to his grandfather's home in the woods with his dog, Indy. Over time, Indy starts to see a dark figure looming around the house, a figure that Todd cannot see. Indy must find a way to protect his master as his health keeps getting worse and worse, and the dangers keep rising. Over the years, I've looked at films that have tried different aspects, especially within the horror genre. I've made no qualms about how I think a violent nature was a interesting idea, but the execution was not well done. This was actually kind of the opposite. This is what happens when you take a concept, what if a horror movie was from the point of view of an animal, but doing it in a way that it's not just a straight up found footage movie, but actually getting to see the aspects of the area and everything and seeing just this vibe. The atmosphere that animals can sense things that we can't see is a thing that is well known in nature. And it's a thing that, well, we understand because in nature there are creatures that have different senses that the human eye cannot resonate with or hear or see or smell. So, what can you do with that? Well, a lot. If you do it in the right hands and the right context, it can be done very, very well. This is an example of doing it well. The concept is pretty straightforward, and even though there's no dialogue, you don't really need one, because film is itself a visual medium, but when the main character doesn't talk and doesn't communicate with humans, we don't really need to know what they're gonna say in their mind. We kind of project it onto ourselves. We are the silent observers to an animal experiencing the horrors of things happening to them. That's an interesting concept that horror has dabbled in, but this movie actually executes in a fairly good way. I think the only issue I really had with this movie overall was kind of the fact that it was so short. It was a little over an hour, which, give or take this kind of a movie, is not very long. But movies like Skinamarink, which is also a short film, also executes the experimental very well. But it's also not for everyone. So it's very hard to gauge with this kind of movie. There are a couple of actors in the movie, but nothing too stand out because it's not necessarily the movie's central focus is of the people, and there's a reason why you don't really see their faces, but once you see the movie it makes sense. This is Ben Leonberg's first ever feature film. He co-wrote this script with a few other people, and this is actually his dog, Indy, who did a fantastic job, so round of applause to them. But the thing about the movie that I really enjoyed is it didn't overdo it. It's a horror movie that I feel can just be approached for anyone of any sort of subgenre fan. You know, if you want something that's kind of simple, kind of short, nothing too crazy, nothing too gory, nothing too dark and twisted, it's actually a good movie to start with. There's not that many starter horror films that have come out in the past couple of years that I would really recommend, but Good Boy is definitely one that I think would really resonate with a lot of people, especially younger people trying to get into horror, and the unease you feel of the safety of the dog as well as the safety of the owner does put you unease, but it doesn't put you off of watching the movie. So I can safely say there's just enough to keep you in, but not enough to push you away. And for that, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but for me, I actually had a pretty good time. I give Good Boy 4 out of 5. Have you seen Good Boy? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to stab that subscribe button and slice that like button
and I'll see you next time.